Hi, welcome to my Halloween franchise ranking. So I've now finally seen Halloween Ends and given out my thoughts on that. And leading up to the release of this movie, I decided to go back and revisit every single movie in the franchise. So I just wanted to finish off by doing a ranking list, going through every single movie from my worst up to my personal favourite. Before I get into this list, I will just say as well, this is purely in order of my personal preference. I'm not ranking this based off any sort of objective qualities. It's not about how technically well made the movies are. These are just the ones that have stuck with me the most and the ones that I have the most desire to go back and keep rewatching. So starting off with my worst movie on this list, it's going to be number 13, Halloween Resurrection. The reason I hate this movie so much is the fact that in the opening minutes, it decided to include this twist, which completely ruined that brilliant ending we had for Halloween H2O. The fact that they decided to kill Laurie off as well, just minutes after this, after including this horrible twist, just really ruined her character arc in this timeline for me, to be honest. And even once you get past all that, you've just got a really cheap and lazy movie here. They decided to cast Busta Rhymes and have him do kung fu moves on Michael Myers. It genuinely has to be seen to be believed. It's an absolutely terrible movie and there is nothing at all to recommend here. Coming in at number 12 for me is going to be Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I actually quite enjoy the opening sequence of the movie set in the hospital. It kind of looks like it was going to be a reimagining of the original sequel, and it did build some nice atmosphere. I really liked Scout Taylor Compton as Laurie as well, and the problem is this scene goes on for quite a while and just turns out to be this big extended dream sequence, and as soon as that is over, the movie takes a huge nosedive from there. The script for this is absolutely appalling, the character writing is terrible, and the dialogue throughout all of this movie pretty much makes it unwatchable. As well, Rob Zombie tried to include these dream sequences, I think in an effort to put some symbolism in there and put a more thematic element, but I think these just fell completely flat. All of those scenes with the woman and the white horse, it was just horrible to watch. I think the thing is as well, it's just so dark and unpleasant. I genuinely think I would rather go back and rewatch Resurrection over this, just because of how unpleasant it is. It's 2 hours of people suffering and getting absolutely no payoff for it. Number 11 is going to be Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. I have a really hard time understanding with this entry why they would undo all of the great things they set up with Halloween 4. You know, you've got this really interesting character with Jamie Lloyd and took her in a really wild direction right at the very end of the previous entry. But for some reason here, they decided to undo all of that and sideline the character and make her a mute. That was just a bizarre decision to me. Also replacing the last lead with this new, much more annoying character of Tina. And it made this character very difficult to follow as well, because throughout the movie, she has no real idea of what's going on. She doesn't know anything about Michael Myers. She's not involved with this plot. And the second she does realise what's going on, she's instantly killed. So I don't understand where they were going with that. And it's just quite a dull movie to get through. It genuinely took me a couple of nights to actually finish this one. And they tried to do another wild ending here, having this man in a black suit come in, but it wasn't one of those endings where you think, oh wow, what was that? That's really got me eager to know what's in the next entry. You just left thinking, what the hell was that? My number 10 choice is going to be Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. This is quite a strange movie in the franchise, just because at this point, they basically decided to turn this into an anthology series, have every single movie be its own original story, which would have been quite a cool idea had this actually have been any good though. I'm not really into these witchcraft type stories, even at the best of times, But when here you get to this evil mask maker and insects and snakes coming out of people's faces, laser beams, you've got medallions made up from chips of Stonehenge, and this old doctor coupling up with this really gorgeous young actress. It was a lot of nonsense to take in one movie. My number 9 choice is going to be Halloween Kills. This just has a really poor script and a lot of badly written dialogue. I could still get some entertainment out of this entry. I wouldn't hate rewatching it, but there were a few scenes throughout this movie that I just really hated. The whole sequence in the hospital I thought was just awful. I realised as well when doing this list that a lot of movies higher up were ones that had really strong character development, characters you could really go in and properly connect with, and I felt Halloween Kills was really lacking in that way. But I did really enjoy that sequence in the beginning where they recreate some of those events that took place on the original night. Coming in at number 8, I'm going to put Rob Zombie's Halloween. There are some elements of this movie I do enjoy. I do think Rob Zombie at times can be quite a good director. That whole reimagining he does at the end of John Carpenter's original, I do quite enjoy going along with and watching. The main problems I have here is that he decided to do a backstory for Michael Myers, having it so that he was this child brought up in this horrific situation and one day snaps. And whilst I think that could be a good idea for another movie, it kind of defeats the point of what Halloween and the shape is really about. I think this was the wrong franchise to write this story into. That first half an hour or so is absolutely horrendous. I couldn't believe after finishing this movie, I gave it a 3-star rating. My number 7 choice is going to be Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. I know you're probably wondering how this movie has made it so high up on my list. It's definitely a badly made film. I don't think you're ever more than 2 minutes away from some badly edited scene or some bizarre character dialogue. But for some reason, I do just find this one quite an interesting entry to watch. I just think because they're doing so many weird things with this one, throwing that cult stuff in there and just going a lot of crazy directions, you can't help but find some entertainment watching this movie. And there are actually a few scenes with good atmosphere and a few creepy moments as well. I will say though, seeing Paul Rudd here, his performance was absolutely terrible. I'm really glad he found his thing with comedy after this and went on to much better things. My number 6 choice is going to be Halloween Ends. I'm still undecided entirely on how I feel about this entry. I haven't had a chance to see it for a second time yet, so this one could easily go up or down. I like that this movie took a lot of bold directions with the story and definitely took some risks. I think the character of Corey was really good as well. I did enjoy going along with for his story and thought the actor did a really good job with this character. But overall, I think there are some scenes and some story directions here that don't really work and just feel very strange in this movie, and in this franchise rather. It'll be interesting to see down the line after a few more rewatches of this how people really feel about it. But overall, it's certainly not one of the better films in the franchise, and it definitely felt unplanned just because of how many wild things they decided to throw in here. My number 5 choice is going to be the original sequel, Halloween 2. The one thing I really enjoy about this entry is the fact that it all takes place in that same night as the original. I really enjoy watching these two back to back just to see all of these events take place over one day and one night. There is really some nice atmosphere here, and I do like Sam Loomis coming back again and having quite a lot of scenes throughout this movie, because I really did feel like he brings quite a lot of interest to this franchise. I definitely can't help but notice when watching this one though that it does feel a lot more bland than the original. It doesn't build the tension or the scares anywhere near as well. They decided to put this plot twist as well at the end with Loomis in a car where he tells this doctor about how Michael and Laurie are actually related. And to me, that just felt like them putting something memorable in there to sort of spice the film up a bit, because when you watch these against each other, you can't help but notice that step down in quality from the original. We're getting into the top 4 movies I have in this franchise now, and I would say at this point, every movie that's above this are all movies that I actually really quite enjoy. These are ones that I have rewatched a number of times, and if I'm in the mood for a Halloween movie, I think I would actually go to these out of choice, and maybe not just because I wanted to watch through the whole franchise, which I do get a lot of satisfaction from doing. But for just a movie in isolation, these ones above, I would actively go and rewatch and recommend to people. My number 4 choice is going to be Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. I love in this movie how much time they take to really build up these strong and interesting characters. We've got this new character with Jamie Lloyd, who was played by young actress Danielle Harris, and she does an amazing job here. It's probably one of my favourite child actor performances, and she really carries this movie. And because they build up a really nice relationship between her and her foster sister Rachel, and you can really connect with these characters, it means at the end, when all the chaos ensues with Michael Myers, you do feel like you really want these characters to escape this situation, and you do actually care about what's going on here. A pretty shocking ending as well. I was actually very surprised the first time I saw this that they decided to take that direction. I thought it was a pretty bold decision and worked really well. My number 3 choice is going to be Halloween 2018. On first watch of this, I wasn't entirely sure that I liked this movie, but over the years since it's been released, I've been back to it a few times and I've just really come around to this one. It's probably the best directed of any of these. It has just very high production value and looks far better than pretty much all of the other movies on this list. There's still some rough dialogue here, some character writing that doesn't entirely work for me, but this really is just a very entertaining Halloween movie. They introduce some good characters, there's the best portrayal of Michael Myers, and it's just a quite exciting movie to go along with. I definitely think it's the best of the David Gordon Green trilogy. At number 2, I'm going to put Halloween H2O. I actually really love this movie. I think a lot of the problems people have with this one is the fact that they feel so similar in vibe and tone to a lot of those late 90s, mid to late 90s horror movies, stuff, you know, like Scream, the Scream sequels, and The Faculty, stuff like that. But I don't really have a problem with this because I really love all of those movies. And I do just quite enjoy a lot of the actors they have in this movie, you know, people like Josh Hartnett, you've got Michelle Williams, and I do just quite enjoy going along on this story with them. I also think this is the best performance and story for Laurie Strode we ever got. I love this direction they went with this character, where she's changed her name and she's gone to have a more private life and do something away from Haddonfield. That kind of makes a lot more sense to me. It feels like a realistic way her character would live out after having those traumatizing events when she was young. It feels like a lot more believable to me than some of the other directions they decided to go with her. It's just a very short and entertaining film as well. This is the one I've probably re-watched the most just because of how short and entertaining it is. I think it's only like 80 minutes long. Not a moment of it drags. Every scene is there to move these character stories forward, to tell you something new, and to show you a lot of exciting situations, and I really enjoy it for that. This has by far as well the best ending out of any of these movies. I absolutely love those last few minutes. So coming in at number 1, my favourite movie in the Halloween franchise is going to be John Carpenter's original Halloween. It's amazing that this one still hasn't been topped. I think it's still easily the best in the franchise. It's one of the most iconic slasher films and has influenced so many other horror films over the decades since. I think John Carpenter was able to build a fantastic atmosphere here and really gripping tension that a lot of horror films just aren't able to do. There's something about this movie when you're watching it, the effect of it on just such a simple script is pretty impressive. It's a very simple script, but I just really love the way it's executed here. I think additions here as well, like having Donald Pleasance as Sam Loomis, actually brings so much more to the movie than you first realise. A lot of his scenes, I think, if you took them away, this film would actually be nowhere near as good as it is. I absolutely love his presence here. And creating this character of the Shape with this incredible looking mask and this character that they never explain anything about, just this pure evil, unexplained, a very, very intriguing villain, and one that obviously so many filmmakers have wanted to tell the story of even 40 years later. The fact that we're still talking about this movie as well, over 40 years on, it's had 12 sequels and a number of films made just on its influence, just shows how much this movie really has stood the test of time. It's not only my favourite Halloween movie, but it's also one of my favourite horror movies ever made, and that's why it comes in right at the top of my list. I hope you've enjoyed my video of this Halloween franchise ranking. If you've actually seen all 13 of these films, please let me know what order you would put them in and the ones that you like and dislike. The thing that's really interesting about these movie lists is we all come to film for different reasons, whether that be to connect to great characters, see different stories play out, or just purely for the entertainment. And you're never likely to see the same list twice, and that's what I really love about these. Thanks a lot for watching. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed my video, and I'll see you next time.